The next match I'd like to talk about is Boyce LeGrande versus Victor Sterling. Now, Boyce LeGrande has been turning up in PPW a lot. He's come out, he's had a lot of negative things to say about the company, and for a while he was doing challenges in the ring for his Dynamite Division title.
His open challenge,
His open challenges. But at this point, he is no longer offering that title up. He's having a match with Victor Sterling. It's a one-on-one competitor match. And I think that this one's going to be very interesting because we have two guys who do have championship pedigrees.
I'm excited personally to see Victor Sterling back in a singles match.
Right, me too.
I think he's better suited for singles competition. Not that he looked bad in tag matches, but when he debuted in PPW in a singles match, I thought that was him at his most aggressive. I thought that was him able to put things at his own pace. And I'm excited to see him in a singles against a guy with a huge tenure like Boyce LeGrande. I believe I'm forgetting.
Like 18, 19 years.
Yeah,
at this
19
point.
years in the business. And I'm really excited to see how those two match up. And I'm excited to see Boyce LeGrande in a match where he's actually prepping for his opponent.
Yeah, this is something where Boyce comes off, as he does, and it's a lot of bravado, but then he goes and he backs it up. And that's something that no matter what you think of the guy, and he's been on commentary with us, right? He's definitely he's no stranger to speaking his mind. One of the things that you kind of have to admire about a guy like that is he says what he's thinking, and then he goes out and he backs up what he says. That is something that I think anyone trying to come up like Victor Sterling, he sees someone like that, and he's like, well, I'm trying to make a name for myself too. And so now the question is, well, can you shut him up a little bit? And I think that's going to be something that for Victor Sterling, it's going to make for an interesting challenge because, we've seen him. He's a great mat worker. He's someone that can really get in there and grind someone down. And I think, Boyce does a pretty good job of that. But, that's going to be a kind of an interesting contrast in styles between the two.
Well, I think, Eric, you brought up an interesting point that many of the matches that Boyce LeGrande has had in PPW has been against an unknown opponent.
Right.
And so a veteran with 19 years under his belt, I imagine that he knows how to prepare as well as anyone else in the business. So it's going to be interesting to see what his game plan is going into this match. And I did ask him. He said that Vic is a young, up-and-coming competitor, but my experience and skill will put me over the top. I'm not going to reveal plans on how to beat him. Just know this, I will beat him.
Okay.
See, and now he's like, he's going to try and go back that up.
Yeah, there's, like you brought up, Boyce has kind of a history of calling his shot, so to speak. And there's something admirable and intimidating about a guy who can kind of lay down a challenge and then immediately rise and vanquish that challenge. And I'm hoping we see a little bit more of that grind, that aggression that Sterling showed in his singles match with the company. I'd really like to see that against Boyce.
Speaking of aggression and, as you said, grinding a man down, Victor Sterling said that Boyce is a smart and cunning veteran, but he can't properly prepare for what he hasn't faced before. When I get in the ring with him, I'm either going to snap his neck or make him tap out in front of the spirited crowd of Phoenix Pro Wrestling. So he is definitely gunning for Boyce.
I want to talk about right at somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want PPW to go right at neck breaking. I don't condone neck breaking, but if it's a strong, hard stance on that. But if that's the level that you have to go to psych yourself up to go against a guy like Boyce, then that sounds like I'm going to get what I asked for when I want the aggressive side of Sterling.
It shows just how bad these guys want it, because when you come into a PPW ring, you're fighting for the PPW title, even if you're not in that match. These guys are both champions in other federations, but if you want to be champion in PPW, you got to do it in a PPW ring. And so these guys see each other pretty clearly as a way forward, and they're willing to go to the lengths of potentially injuring someone.
And one thing I will say is that since the Dynamite Championship, the Dynamite Division Championship has been defended on the show, Victor pulls off a win here, he'll have that in his sights too, right?
He could be going to Gold Rush and trying to get that title from Boyce.
So if you think about what a match like this means to someone like Sterling, up-and-comer, like Boyce said, and he's definitely got it in him to work the way he wants to kind of craft the match he does because of his amateur background, which is good. I'm interested to see if this kind of turns into one of those hard-hitting, kind of almost brawlish type matches that really makes Boyce LeGrande stand out the way he has so far in PPW, and if Victor can kind of turn that into the match that he is best at. And that's really what's going to determine who wins this match.
Well, I like what you said about Sterling, how this could open up not other shots just in PPW, but in other feds. Right. And I remember talking to Sterling at the last show, and he kind of expressed how difficult it was to kind of break in to certain areas in wrestling. Some guys...
Very competitive in the Bay Area.
Yeah, it's very competitive in the Bay Area. There's a lot of new guys. This is probably the most packed it's been talent-wise in a decade. And so he was expressing to me there's certain feds that he's wanted to work. There's certain areas he wants to work to expand his skill set, and he's just wanting that opportunity. And him fighting a guy like Boyce in a singles match feels like a huge opportunity. And so you have to recognize that if he's already realizing that he's just looking for a shot, he has to recognize that this is the shot.
This is a match that could have major implications across the entire Bay Area.
Yeah. This could be a career-building match for a guy like Sterling.